All right, let's get right into it. What if I told you that you could make a ridiculously rich, soft, and spongy chocolate cake, like right now, with ingredients you probably already have in your kitchen? Well, get ready, because we're about to break down a recipe for what I can only call an impossible chocolate cake.
And yeah, when I say impossible, I kind of mean it. The first big secret? That rich, decadent topping, the ganache, is made without a single bar of chocolate. How on earth is that possible? Well, you're going to want to stick around because it gets even wilder.
That's right, this isn't just a chocolate-free chocolate cake. This thing is made without an oven, without any eggs, and without any heavy cream. It's pretty much the ultimate, super accessible recipe for a perfect, moist chocolate cake, and we're going to go through it step by step.
Okay, first things first, the heart and soul of any great cake, the batter. This is where the magic starts, and you'll be surprised at how simple it is. So take a look at the ingredients. They're all super common, right? We're talking basic cooking oil, some plain yogurt, sugar, and milk for the wet ingredients. And for the dry stuff, just all-purpose flour, cocoa powder, and baking powder. Seriously, nothing fancy here. And that is exactly the point. And the process? Just as easy. First, you whisk your wet ingredients together till they're nice and smooth. Then you sift the dry ingredients right on top. That's what keeps it all light and airy. And then, and you really want to pay attention here, you don't beat it. You gently cut and fold the batter while you slowly add the milk. That technique is absolutely key for getting that soft, spongy texture we're after. So how do you know when you're done folding? Well, you're looking for what bakers call a ribbon consistency. Basically, it's when you lift your spatula and the batter falls off in a thick, continuous ribbon that kind of sits on the surface for a second before melting back in. Once you see that, boom, it's ready. No oven, no sweat. Next up, we're going to see how to rig up a clever little DIY oven right on your stovetop. This is such a brilliant hack. You just grab any heavy-bottomed pot, spread a layer of regular salt on the bottom. That helps spread the heat out really evenly. Then you pop a little metal stand or even just an upside-down heat-proof plate on the salt. Cover it up and preheat it on a medium flame for about 10 minutes. And just like that, you've got yourself a perfectly good oven. Okay, now listen up, because this is probably the most important tip in this whole thing. The second that batter is ready, it needs to go into the pan and into the heat. So that means you have to get your cake tin prepped and your DIY oven preheating before you even think about mixing your ingredients. You do not want that beautiful, airy batter just sitting around. Once the cake is in its new home, you'll bake it on a low to medium flame for about 30 to 40 minutes. Now, the original creator suggests doing your first check for doneness, with a toothpick, after about 25 to 28 minutes. Stovetop ovens can be a little different, so it's good to check early. When that toothpick comes out clean, you are good to go. So, while the cake is cooling, it's time for the second part of our impossible magic trick, that rich, glossy ganache that's made without any actual chocolate. Just look at these ingredients. It is all about clever swaps. We're using cocoa powder for that deep, chocolatey flavor, a little cornflour to thicken it up, and then powdered sugar, milk, and butter to make it all silky and rich. All simple things you probably have right now. I mean, this slide really shows you just how smart this recipe is. A normal ganache needs expensive heavy cream and actual chocolate bars. This version brilliantly swaps in milk for the cream and then uses that combo of cocoa powder and cornflour to perfectly copy the richness and texture of melted chocolate. It's just genius. And making it is so easy. Just whisk the dry stuff with the milk in a saucepan until there are no more lumps. Then you cook it on low heat. Now, the key here is to stir constantly. Don't walk away. This is what keeps it from getting lumpy and make sure it thickens into a smooth, creamy sauce. After about 5 or 6 minutes, you just stir in the butter and it'll turn beautifully glossy. The creator of this recipe has this really simple, reassuring advice here. They say, slowly, this mixture will thicken. And it's so true. It might look really thin at first, and you'll think you did something wrong, but just have a little patience. If you keep stirring it over that low heat, it will transform into a perfect, rich ganache right before your eyes. Okay, our cake has cooled down, the ganache is ready. Let's get to the best part, the grand finale, putting it all together. Now, with the ganache, what you're looking for is a pouring consistency. You don't want it straight off the stove because it'll be too thin and just run off. Let it cool for just 5 minutes. That is the sweet spot where it's thick enough to cling to the cake, but still liquid enough to pour smoothly all over the top and sides. So here's how we finish this masterpiece. First, make sure your cake is completely cool and place it on a wire rack. Then, you just pour that slightly cooled ganache right over the center and let it cascade down the sides. It's so satisfying to watch. You can garnish it with whatever you want, maybe some grated chocolate for a little extra flair, and then just chill it for an hour or two so that beautiful ganache can set up perfectly. So, to quickly recap the biggest keys to success: 1, your cake must be completely cool before the ganache goes on. 2, get your pan and your oven prepped before you start the batter. 3, here's a great little tip: cover the warm cake with a cloth while it cools to keep the top from drying out. And finally, remember to start checking if it's done a little on the early side. And there you have it, a soft, spongy, unbelievably delicious chocolate cake, made possible with the simplest ingredients and the cleverest tricks. No oven, no eggs, no chocolate, no cream, and really no excuses. The only question left is, are you ready to bake the impossible?